what are some of the issues with custody that you see, and just give us a peek behind that.
So, I mean, and this is where Carrie and I make a great pair in this sense, because I come at it from the litigation perspective, and Carrie has the distinct honor of being one of our beloved guardian ad litems in the state of Rhode Island. For those not familiar, a guardian ad litem is an attorney that's typically appointed by the court that is there to investigate the best interests of the minor children and help to make recommendations to the court about what that best interest is and how it's best served when parties can't come together and reach that agreement on their own. Kids boil down to custody and placement, right? Custody is the right to make major life decisions, health, education, religion. I joke that unless you're like an axe murderer or like, actively molesting your own children, typically you're looking at a joint custody situation where you're making decisions for your children together equally with your spouse. Nobody wears the crown. Nobody has, the kind of veto power. And placement is really typically the big fight that people are having, where the children live, who are they visiting with, what that schedule looks like, what that timing looks like. That's normally where the big fight is had. And then, of course, child support rolls into that as well. And the reason why placement becomes such a big fight in Rhode Island is that child support is tied to placement. So whoever has primary placement is typically receiving support from the other parent. And traditionally, it's with one parent or another, but we're seeing kind of a trend and a tracking more towards equal parenting time if parties are able to make that work, because equal time requires normally more interaction of parents. And for many folks getting divorced, that's the last thing they want to do is interact with their spouse at the same rate that they were when they were married.
I like to consider my present status in my practice of law as when you turn on the news and the expert that they're having narrating what just happened, it says former agent or former investigator. I'm former guardian ad litem, so I bring that life experience to this mediation process. Yes, guardian ad litems are great, but I go back to the 90-10. 10% of families will always be in conflict for 9 to 10 to 12, 13 years watching the children grow up. They will be in court. They will need a guardian. I think more people after watching this podcast should realize they can accomplish what's best for their children in mediation. And then, yes, I bring that skill set of telling people how much time and how long it takes and what's investigated if you're the guardian. But you should invest in yourselves. Listen to this process where I, as a former guardian, working with Jane, who's gone through that experience, will tell you what's going to happen. There's all protocols. There's the case called Petnato versus Petnato that gives 8 factors that you look at. So you should be discussing those in mediation and working them through as opposed to litigating them at court. Some cases will need to be litigated. Some cases will need to be investigated. But at the end of the day, the parties that should be in mediation, they know their children best. The one thing that's going to happen is if two parties can't live together for the rest of their lives, it does not mean that they won't be sharing their children for the rest of their lives. My adage is you own them from 0 to 18 and they own you for a lifetime thereafter. How you handle it for those 18 years, sharing and caring and working together, will define when, how, and if you ever see your children again.
Yeah.
That might seem dark, but it's true. Everyone has a story of the kid they went to school with whose parents never got along. And ask them at age 30 or 40 what their perspective on it was. So if people are think of their children first, and then tangentially that'll expand out to them, the marital unit, the family unit can be preserved through mediation. Yes, get a guardian if you need it, but you don't need a guardian in this process. You have 2 qualified people that will manage that and then refer out to Victoria on that. All lawyers will tell you that it should be worked out by the parties before it's litigated with a guardian. That's the former guardian ad litem speaking in mediation.